women of business. I hope you are enjoying your experience thus far at the Blaze Summit. Please, I need you to understand that Casey and her team truly understood the assignment and crafted this experience with us in mind. So I am so elated, beyond thrilled to be here today to share this experience with you. And thank you for sharing this experience with me. And so I hope we can dive a little bit into talking more about where's the compassion when you're fatigued. So I'm pretty sure you're in the right room, and I want to validate that. You're in the right room if you identify with at least one of these. Okay, so you personally or professionally provide care to others. You identify with having the needs of others come before you majority of the time. So what that means is not saying I always have to put myself first, but it means me too. And sometimes we don't do that. And then third, you feel guilty when you take a break or get too much rest. And so this isn't an exhaustive list. In fact, what I would like for you to do is put in the chat the number that you resonate the most with. It could be 1, 2, 3, it could be all three, or if you feel like none of these resonate with you, but you do have something else that resonates with you, I'd love for you to put that in the chat so I can see who's in the room with me and how I can honor you today. All right. So as you get your numbers in, give you a couple seconds, and I'm going to talk about me a little bit. So I am an ally to at-risk children and families, an advocate for Black women and girls, and an adult child with daughter responsibilities. So I'm going to break all this down for you. I'm going to share some things with you that are not in my bio because it wouldn't fit, right? So as a young child, I always had the desire to serve others. I remember being able to be fortunate enough to have resources to share with other people, to lend a helping hand. Hey, let me show you this, or come with me and we can experience this together. And so kind of aging and maturing, if you will, going into the professional arena as a professional, I decided to kind of interject myself into the child welfare system. And in that, I was able to build lots of bonds. A lot of those bonds are still intact. I remember when I first started, I was close in age with some of the girls or the children that were there, mainly girls. I mainly helped girls, but I was close in age with a lot of the girls that I served, and I was close in age with some of the parents. So it was kind of a very tough situation to be in, but I was so concerned about them. I wanted them to do well and be well. And so regardless of what the outcomes that were attached to a contract, right? Because, you know, in that mental health, child welfare system field, there are contracts, and those contracts dictate the outcomes. And so beyond the outcomes, beyond that, I was completely concerned for them. Wasn't angry when they didn't meet an outcome, but I was concerned. And so that concern kind of led me to a place where I began to become a parent to myself, because I was so protective over them, as a parent would be, even the families, even the parents that I was close in age to, or the ones older than me. I became that parent for them because I was so worried. I was so concerned about their well-being. I wanted them to do well and be well. But when they didn't meet that outcome, or when they didn't show up as, you know, they had hoped to, that parental role that I took on became a little unhealthy. It became toxic. It became a critic, if you will. A lot of people say, well, you're your own worst critic, and that is true. And so what I started to do was internalize that. And so that forced me to want to do better and be better. not really realizing that I had done all I could. And so because these at-risk children and families had trauma, they had traumatic stories, they were still displaying traumatic behaviors, it kind of took a toll on me. I was exposed to their traumatic events. And so kind of segueing into my volunteerism as an advocate for Black women and girls, kind of the same thing. If I didn't see a needing or deserving Black woman or Black girl show up to get her cup filled, I would internalize that. Like, how could I have been better for her? How could I do better for her? And then naturally, as you can imagine, that parental role took over. And so now I'm not being nice to myself. I'm holding myself accountable for their outcome, their decision. And now I know the resources that they need. And I'm constantly thinking about, I know this could have helped them. I know this could have helped them. So that kind of took a toll on me. And so as an adult child with daughter responsibilities, that on top of me serving my community, that took a toll, because my mother had different scenarios where she encountered unforeseen health issues. And so now I have to put my personal life on hold to make sure that her needs are met. And so the urgency in that became an ongoing emergency for me. And during those times, I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't feeling the best that I could be, but I also attached everyone else's, whoever I was serving, I attached their success with mine. And so when they didn't succeed, I felt like I didn't succeed. And so that's why I'm so passionate today about compassion fatigue. And I know you're probably saying, okay, well, tell us what it is. We'll get to that. But just to kind of let you know that I'm not just your passionate hostess for the rest of the hour, but I am someone who has had some issues with being a personal and professional caregiver, sometimes at the same time. So it's a dual relationship that I've had to kind of manage. So what you can expect your workshop experience to look like, goals on top of goals. So these are the goals. Why are you here at this very moment? We're going to talk about that. We're going to dig a little bit into that. And then we're going to move on to the concept of compassion fatigue and how those symptoms show up. And then lastly, we'll talk about the resources that can help you realign your crown, because we are each other's keeper. We are not supposed to be around here seeing that someone else's crown is crooked and we're not fixing it. No, we won't do that around here. So let's get into it. Why are you here at this very moment? So take a minute to identify your motivation or your reason to become an entrepreneur. Most popular reasons to become an entrepreneur, it's kind of like, okay, well, I wanted to step out on my own, or have this great idea, but my creativity is so limited where I work, I need to create my own lane. Or you have an idea where you can serve the community in a different way or a better way. So creating a business is usually out of necessity. So as you begin to identify your motivation or your reason, if you feel comfortable enough, go ahead and put it in the chat, because I'd like to get a feel for how we are going about or pursuing our business. Because a lot of times when we go into business, sometimes there may be an escape plan. What are you escaping? I will be honest, there were times where I thought about, I can't do this anymore. I don't like how, the microaggressions I'm experiencing. I don't like the fact that, I'm well qualified or overqualified to provide a service, but yet I'm being overlooked because I just don't look the part. And so being in that space kind of motivated me to, you know what, I'm going to create my own lane. I'm going to do what I can do. And I'm going to create a space where I answer to myself, right? But we have to be careful how we're showing up. So before we get really like deeper into it, first, congratulate yourself for being here at this moment. You could have chosen to be anywhere else. You could have chosen to attend any other summit, but you're here. You are here. And so I want to congratulate you, and you congratulate yourself. Matter of fact, put in the chat, I am very happy to be here. I know it sounds a little cheesy, but that's like my favorite, like one of my favorite lines from Coming to America, where they're at the Miss Black Awareness pageant. I'm very happy to be here, you know, so, but I could understand his joy. And he also said joy in the movie too. But anyway, so go ahead, put that in the chat for me. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy that you're here. So at this very moment, you've decided to invest in yourself. And so hopefully you've identified your motivation, and all of you have had a chance to put your reason in the chat. So one of the things that we have to be mindful of is corporate America isn't necessarily like being an entrepreneur. You know, you have to show up. It's you. It's your business. It's all you. So it's your personality, your charisma, your charm, your knowledge. You know, how are you showing up? And so how we show up can definitely be influenced by why we needed to show up, why we needed to create this lane for ourselves. It is a clear indication, like if you are holding on to work habits that no longer serve you, you need to really do some self-assessment, because that could be contributing to what's holding you back. It could be contributing to the fatigue that you're feeling. So an example would be working around the clock. We know certain job titles or certain positions that you have in corporate America require you to work ungodly hours. And so a lot of times we confuse productivity or being busy with productivity. And so have you transferred that work habit over into your business? Another unhealthy work habit, or something that we tend to hold on to and don't really realize it, is that although we want that time and that freedom as an entrepreneur, but we're not making time for the right things. We're not caring about the right things. We're trying to do everything all at once. And so we become this kind of, I don't know, angry, maybe isolated, defeated person. And so if you are bringing those things in, you know, not taking breaks, not having that work-life balance, not even responding very quickly to emails, you know, having certain styles of communication. If you were in a workplace where you were under stress and your supervisors or the people on the leadership team, you know, spoke to you in a certain way, because we're incubators, we as women, we're incubators. You give us something, we're going to multiply that. And so if someone is giving you, you know, whatever, you're going to give them whatever and then some. And so are you still holding on to that? Are you still holding on to anything that made you bitter and that motivated you to start your own business? So that's going to definitely show up when you show up. So just be mindful of that. You know, being a business owner can be so liberating and freeing, but the choices that we make can also keep us in bondage. So compassion fatigue, a deeper look. It's not a disease, but it is a set of symptoms. So compassion fatigue, bottom line is you are being traumatized by someone else's trauma. So this isn't burnout. A lot of people kind of mix the two together and say, oh, well, I'm burnt out or I have compassion fatigue. The symptoms do overlap. However, compassion fatigue is one that it happens very quickly. So the minute you are dealing with the client and that client shares some traumatic material with you, you can be automatically impacted by that. Because usually if we're in the helping field, we are compassionate, we are empathetic, we're passionate. And sometimes that passion can turn into compassion. And then that compassion can kind of get out of control, right? And so the negative side of taking care of others, that means not necessarily being burnt out again, because those symptoms overlap, but the negative side of taking care of others, you can start to feel like, oh my gosh, why did I choose this profession? Because everybody, like, I'm tired of hearing about trauma. I'm tired of hearing about everybody else's problems. But deep down inside, that's what you do. That's what you love to serve. That's your thing. That's your lane. So the negative side of taking care of others can look and feel like you may have chosen the wrong path in life. The process of turning discomfort into comfort, it's basically being desensitized. When we become desensitized, we operate differently, we move differently, we respond differently. And so you no longer have that reminder of who you are and why you chose what you chose. And I'm not saying, okay, you have to be married to this idea forever. No. However, if this is your passion, and there's that word again, if this is your passion and it's turning now into compassion fatigue, then you might want to make sure that you are checking your feelings, you're checking everything else that is connected to you and your business. And then a distraction of your own needs. We talked about that a slide ago, where it's like, it doesn't mean just me. It means me too. It means that, how, and this is very common in life. A girlfriend will come to you or a friend will come to you and they're like, girl, I can't even do it because, he done did this, whatever, for the 10th time, and I can't even. And so you can see what the problem is. You can definitely see what the issue is. And you may have told her, like, girl, if you don't go on about your business, or you may have given that direction in a more gentle way. Well, sometimes in life you have to let things go. And if they return back to you, then it's yours to keep. However you deliver that message, you can see, because you're not so close to the fire. So when you're not as close to the fire, you can see all of the different colors of that flame. But when you're so close in it, all you feel is heat. All you see is red. And so the distraction of your own needs is basically where you can identify everybody else's stuff, but you have a really hard time thinking about assessing, of evaluating what it is that you need to be better, to do better. You have a challenge of soothing yourself when there's pain, emotional pain, physical pain. So compassion fatigue, we have that definition here: the physical and mental exhaustion and emotional withdrawal experienced by those who care for sick or traumatized people over an extended period of time. So again, this isn't like burnout. Burnout is usually tied to workplace stress, working long hours, having your workload just pile up. And again, these things can overlap. And I'm not in any shape or form minimizing burnout. However, compassion fatigue, you feel that quicker than you do burnout. Burnout, it's usually over, a long period of time. But the very first time that you are exposed to someone else's trauma, you definitely feel that immediately. Now we're going to talk about the symptoms. If any of these symptoms sound familiar and you are comfortable with sharing that with me, please do that. But again, this isn't an exhaustive list. So typically you feel like there's no one to talk to about extremely stressful experiences. And usually as an entrepreneur, it's one of those things where you don't really want to show your disdain or even talk about clients in a negative way with someone who doesn't understand. You have to be able to make sure you find that right person to be transparent with, because not everybody understands what it takes to be an entrepreneur. A lot of people feel like, oh, well, you're your own boss. You should be fine. No, no. Sis, doesn't work like that. Okay. Having low energy, feeling tired or weak. So you may feel like, oh my gosh, I'm always tired. I feel like, not necessarily taking an interest in things that I used to like, or, I went for a walk the other day, and usually I'm able to do 3 miles and I was only able to do 1, or I got on the Peloton and I could only do 10 minutes, having that low energy, or just feeling that and it's just like you get out of bed because you have to show up, right? But getting out of bed and just feeling like your vibration is just so low, like that frequency you have is so dull. And then you have feeling unusually confused, on edge, or scared. And so unusually confused kind of ties into that low vibration, right? If you have this low vibration, you're vibrating very low, and you have these feelings of just, not sure how else to describe it, but you feel like, oh gosh, that can alter how we make decisions. It can alter our judgment. It could make us feel anxious. It could make us have some kind of, reaction that we normally wouldn't have. And so when we have this fatigue feeling because we're so worried about our clients, and we keep thinking about, and this is where we come into the continuous overthinking about the client suffering, we continue to ruminate. It's like, oh man, I can't believe that this happened to them. And then you might find yourself becoming angry at the perpetrator or whomever is mistreating them. You might find yourself getting angry. And especially if you have experienced something similar to them, you can experience vicarious trauma. And so that might trigger you. That might trigger something that you thought you may have dealt with, or it could kind of raise your empathy level to a point where it's unnecessarily, it's unhealthy for you. And so yes, we when we go into the helping field, we have empathy because that's one of the things that we need. However, when we start to care about something too much, when we start to ruminate over it, when we start to play it back and we take it home, or we take it to our friendships, or we just take it to bed with us, that affects us. And then you have the inability to perform daily tasks and feeling helpless or hopeless. And so all of these kind of tie in together. When you are exposed to that person's trauma, or just in a different array of traumatic material, you can have these symptoms that show up. And so another way that symptoms can show up, not just with dealing with clients and their trauma, but also the image that people give you. A lot of times people will assign an image to you because they see, oh, look at Nefretiri. She got her little business. I hate when people say little business. Don't call my stuff little. Don't you do it. Because we got big girl energy over here. Ain't nothing little about my business. But they'll be like, oh, she got a little business, so she must be bringing in the coins. So they may see you doing big things, even though they just called your business little. And they may say, oh, well, let me get her to support. And so now you find yourself in this philanthropy mode. And now you are dependent on to support a certain cause. And yes, we want to give back to our community. We want to be able to pour into our community because that's what it's about. It's about making sure our dollars circulate with each other, right? And so this image that you have, and now because you're so empathetic, because serving people is what you do, serving people is what you like to do, now you have this thing holding over your head, even though you might not be where they have placed you. Sometimes we feel like we still have to answer that call. And so we put ourselves in the space where we're not where we should be at that moment. And so someone may ask you to give a certain amount or do a certain thing, and you don't have the capacity, but we do it anyway, and so there's that fatigue coming again, because now it's like, okay, for a cause, I want to make sure these babies are safe. But if I don't do this, then how am I helping? And so again, it could be just a vicious cycle that we find ourselves in, but we're going to help you fix that. We're going to fix your crown. We're going to make sure your crown is straight. We're going to recalibrate your GPS with a mentor or a coach. And so if you find yourself resonating with a lot of these symptoms or feeling a certain way, there are things you can do. And here's a short list of what you can do. So recalibrating your GPS with a mentor. So you may offer a unique service or product, and maybe no one has tapped into that all the way, but there are some people, there are pioneers who have paved the way and are willing to lend you a helping hand with getting you where you need to be. And so they can tell you if you need to make a detour or reroute, how the GPS tells you rerouting, or you missed your turn, or, something like that. And so that mentor or that coach, and especially us coaches, we need a coach. Therapists need a therapist. Mailman need a mailman. Doctors need a doctor. Everybody needs somebody. And so because you are that expert doesn't mean that you don't have the room to tap into another expert. Doesn't mean that at all. Like, that's what we should be doing. So check your temperature with a medical or a mental health professional. This is very key. And so sometimes we may need medication to help us, with those barriers that are preventing us from functioning in our daily lives. I'm not endorsing medication. That's not what I'm doing here. But, checking in with a medical or mental health professional is key. Maybe you just need to talk it out. Maybe you need some assistance in having talk therapy be a way to help you sort out some things and then get some strategic solutions. And then finding a support group of other entrepreneurs. You can find a group or you can create your own group. And so kind of going back to what I said earlier, a lot of times we don't have the space to vent. We don't have people, we tend to not have people who are doing the same things that we're doing. Like if I were to talk to my mom about how a challenging client, made me feel today, she's not going to understand me. She's just gonna be like, well, you got paid, didn't you? Okay, that's really not the issue, right? And then typically in support groups or creating a safe space where you can kind of check your emotional gauge a little bit, because sometimes we can feel really icky about somebody And it could be just us, but we assign that. And so sometimes, you know, if we have a challenging client, we might give them a name, we might give them a label based on how we feel about them. And then guess what? Usually that label is not always positive, honey. Not always positive. It might be like, oh, this client is always complaining. And so we get creative. You know how we can do. We get creative with nicknames and we call them something to ourselves, you know, not to their faces. But when we do that, we tend to start to treat them how we have labeled them. And that, you know, on the receiving end of customer service is not the best way to go. So if it's the client or your person, or if it's you, you know, having a support group of other entrepreneurs can definitely help you with that. And then the self-compassion and self-care. So I know you guys did not think I was going to leave out self-care, because self-care is the best care. Okay. Put that in chat. Self-care is the best care. All right. So let's talk about self-compassion for a little bit. If you are in a safe space or a comfortable space, I'd like for you to go into an exercise with me very quickly. So you don't have to close your eyes or anything. You don't have to meditate or anything. But if you're driving, if you're listening to this or you're watching this and you're driving, please don't just wait. Watch the replay if you can. But if you're in an appropriate place to just kind of tune in with me, I'd love for you to try this. So we're going to do this brief assessment to see how you're taking care of yourself with self-compassion, right? So we're going to focus on the physical aspect first. So allow any tension in your body to release. If there's anything, a lot of times we hold tension in our shoulders. Sometimes we are clenching our fingers or our fists. We could be grinding our teeth. Just try to release any tension that you may be holding in your body right now. And as you do that, I want you to think to yourself, how do you care for your body? I'll repeat that. As you release whatever tension you have in your body, think to yourself, how do you care for your body? Now, next question is, what are some techniques you could use or already use to release stress or tension? And again, you're thinking to yourself, what are some techniques you could use or that you're already using to release stress or tension? And as you think about those, and if you thought of any that you're already using, ask yourself, do they work? Are they working for you? Are they serving you the way that they need to? Are they allowing you to show up the way you want and need to show up? So moving from the physical aspect, we're going to go to the mental aspect. Now, some of us might have a little challenge with this one, because this is going to require you to let your thoughts run freely. I do want to put a disclaimer: if you have some issues with any thoughts that come up and they trigger something unhealthy for you, you can tap out. But that's not the purpose of this. This is just to let your mind, let your thoughts run freely. No suppression, no barriers. Just let your mind run freely. And then ask yourself, how do you care for yourself mentally, not emotionally, but mentally. How do you care for yourself mentally? In doing this, think about if you struggled with letting your thoughts run free, letting yourself freely think, because that could be an indication that you might be putting more stress on yourself, because that's all compassion fatigue is a big ball of stress. It's a type of stress, right? But if you had some issues with letting your thoughts run freely, that could be a huge indicator that you might need to give yourself a little bit of grace. We give everybody else grace, but sometimes we don't give ourselves grace. We turn into that authoritative parent. You should have been doing, or you could be doing. Why didn't you do? Oh, you're so stupid, or oh, you're so lazy, or oh, how could you miss that? And so that could motivate you, but is that really how you want to motivate yourself? Okay. And so for the emotional aspect, try not to suppress your emotions, but how are you caring for your emotional well-being? How are you caring for your emotional well-being? Really think about it. Do you know what it means to care for your emotional well-being? What could you do more to care for your feelings? What could you do more to care for your feelings? And this is important because going back to the Me Too, we care about everybody else, and sometimes it's inevitable that we put ourselves on the back burner because sometimes that's just what we have to do. But if you're always doing that, or you're not including yourself, you're not being so compassionate to yourself, sis. I mean, think about it. What would we tell a friend if they're going through something? We would tell them, oh, you need to treat yourself better. So why is that advice great for them, but not good enough for ourselves? We really need to start tapping into that. If I can give this person that I care about, this person that I admire, or this person that is near and dear to me, this advice in hopes that it will help them lessen their struggle or their pain, I'm giving this to them. Why can't I give it to myself? Because that's very common. And so with emotional well-being, making sure that you care for your feelings, allow yourself to feel. You can allow it. It's okay. Emotions are okay. It's what we do with those emotions. And if we're not self-compassionate, then we're really not being kind to ourselves. We're not showing up the way that we need to show up. We just got to do it over. We're not understanding the assignment. And then think about the relational aspect. How are you bringing happiness into the relationships or connections that you already have? Are you isolating yourself? Because isolation is a symptom of compassion fatigue. Oh, I don't want to burden anyone, so I'll just deal with it myself. Or we think we're building boundaries, but we're building walls. We're working in silos. And so, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm over here doing my own thing. Or I don't want anybody to see me in this vulnerable state. And so what you're doing is cheating yourself from the human experience to connect, to be loved, to be celebrated. Okay? So the physical aspect, the emotional aspect, mental and relational aspect, those are 4 key components to self-compassion. Really think about what you're doing to yourself. And then lastly, the self-care, it's beyond a trip to the spa, sis. It's beyond that. It's beyond, getting your nails done or getting your hair done or watching your favorite movie. Let's talk about finances. Do you give enough attention to that? Because that is a part of self-care. You want to be able to do nice things, but do you know what your funds look like? Whatever spirituality that you practice, are you strong in that? Because we need something to get us through the tough times. And so the worksheet that I hope you've been able to access gives you a checklist of items that you're able to assess. You can make sure, like, when you complete the worksheet, be as honest as you can, but don't think too long, because you study long, you study wrong. Okay. Be authentic because it's just for you. You're not going to turn this into anybody. You're not going to, no one's going to evaluate you on this. And so the purpose of the worksheet is to assess majority of the needs in our lives that we do not think about: relationships, finances, work-life balance, just different things that you can do to be compassionate to yourself. And then where you score the lowest, that's usually the place where you need to start to check in with yourself, review your needs, self-care. Again, it's not about just meeting up for brunch. That's great. Don't get me wrong. That is great. But there's more work that has to be done. And there's so much more that we can do to fill our own cups. But essentially, I hope this has helped you fill your cup. I hope this has helped you understand that in order for you to be better, you have to do better. And that is being kind to yourself, recognizing your triggers, recognizing how you're showing up. But the why is important. Why are you showing up the way that you are showing up? Emotions are okay. It's okay to not be okay. For a long time, we have had this superwoman complex because that's what we were told we had to be. We had to do this. No breaks, team, no sleep. You better get you some sleep. You better get you some rest. You are deserving of everything great. You are deserving of everything that comes to you in abundance. You are deserving. And so I would like for you to, again, congratulate yourselves on being here, because this is a part of your process. This is a part of your community. You're here with other like-minded women who need their cups to be full, because we have poured into so many other people. And so this is our spot. So over the next few days, enjoy your spot. Enjoy investing in you. Enjoy learning about you, because again, your business is you. You show up and we see you. I see you. So thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you sharing this space with me, and I hope to see you again soon.
Woo, 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 woo. Nef. I don't even know the words, like the vulnerability and transparency that you have cultivated in the chat, sis. It's super fire.
I am so excited. Give me what's I gotta make this discussion real different, because y'all saw me in a different space, but I want to be in the right space for y'all. So give me 1 second. Hold on.
Take your time, sis. Take your time. Hey, what's up?
When I tell you all, like, I salute all of my sisters today. You all you gave me life. I know I was here to give you some substance, but you gave me my drink, you gave me my food, you gave me my shelter. Y'all gave it all. Y'all met all my needs. And so I hope that I was able to meet one of yours, because seeing the vulnerability in the chat, seeing the transparency, seeing that it connected, that's what it's about. Yep. And so Miss Goodwin, when you get that t-shirt, Big Girl Energy, can I be your first customer, please? Can I be your first customer, please?
Love it. Yeah, that's what this is about. That's exactly what this is about. You, Nefretiri, and everybody in the chat, I'm gonna say this with my chest too. Y'all are the best of the best. We ain't waiting for TEDx to invite us over. Of course, we are the best of the best, and we are right now showing up in the four corners of the earth, quite literally, to be thought leaders, to make it plain for folk, not for them, for us. Yeah. Like you said, you studied long, you studied wrong. If somebody missed it, that's fine. It was for us, the folks that needed to get it. Amen. So I love it. I'm gonna go ahead and let people ask you some questions. If you have questions, ladies, drop the question in the Q&A. Nef is gonna answer it for you in the same vulnerability you had in that chat. Just know that this is still safe space. This is protected space. I ain't gonna let nobody get to you. I promise. I ain't gonna let nobody get to you that shouldn't be reaching for you. Right? We got you. This is a sisterhood that's gonna live far beyond this. Again, while the Q&A is queuing up, there's a chat that's going to live forever. The Blaze Virtual Summit. People are already talking in there. Michelle, I saw you in there saying your intentions, and sis, I think they were met based on what we've been fed thus far. The replays will be available for 3 months. You got it. And definitely engage, because you win prizes too. Bottom left of the screen, leaderboard. Let me see who in the lead. I think Keisha done got beat, y'all. Yeah, Trella Bishop, 1,090 points because she's engaging, dropping in the chat. Add her profile pic. Come on, sis. I love it, love it, love it. So, first question, Nef. We have Kenya from Jacksonville, Florida. Come on, sunshine. And she says, what tips do you have for fighting the urge to go into isolation? Oh, this is good. If you recognize you have compassion fatigue.
Oh man, great question, Kenya. So one of the things, so this is the therapist in me talking right now. The thing about it is we create habits because at one point they served us for some particular situation or environment that we were in. And so it may have seemed or felt safe then because it worked. It worked in our minds, and it got us to a place where, okay, I'm going to isolate because no one can hurt me further right here. And so it's not because we are weak or because we are, that we don't have the capability of healing. It's that we aren't around people who make us feel safe. And so we have to go and create our own safety net. And so that usually that usually leads us to isolation. And so when you feel that urge to go and isolate, ask yourself, what am I doing beyond the I'm isolating myself, but what am I doing? What am I trying to protect? Why am I trying to protect it? And from whom? Because you may not be in that same space or that same environment or that same situation that you were in that led you to create the need to isolate. And so being in that, you know, if you feel like, okay, I'm no longer in this space, but I still feel like I need to isolate, then take a really good assessment of your tribe. Do you have a tribe? A lot of times we have a tribe, we have different subsets of tribes, and we don't necessarily give them that opportunity to show that they can support us because we are so focused on, I'm going to do this myself. And on top of that, we have that baggage of someone hurt me in the past, so I'm not doing that again. So really start to think about who's in your tribe, because you put them there for a reason. You know, we place people hold a place in our lives because they're meeting some kind of need. And I don't care what anybody says. Oh, we shouldn't judge. Yes, we should. We should judge, because I want to judge how you're going to treat me. I'm not judging you because of what you have. I'm judging the value that you're going to bring to my life. So yeah, I'm a judge the mess out of you, you know? And so with that, holding on to something, the need that no longer suits us, it's almost like chronologically we're aging, but mentally we're staying still. We're still in first grade, or we're still whatever grade that happened. And so we need to look at the positive things that have happened since that traumatic event or the start of that undesirable habit of isolating yourself. I hope that helped, Kenya.
Girl, I could just cry right now. I want to be laid out with a box of tissue looking at the sky. You are telling my story. I know, for one, you hitting on one person in here. You're telling my story. You're telling my life, because, yeah, that's true. I'm stuck, literally stuck at the little girl who lost her mother and wasn't protected, right? I'm stuck at the woman who got married and was abused and couldn't believe that I trusted somebody and they ripped me to shreds like that. Stuck. Yeah. And shows up in my new relationships, right? Shows up in my friendships, because, you know, yeah, I'm moving and I'm evolving and all of these things, but I'm so boxed out, right? Yeah. I'm not allowing myself to heal and move beyond. It was only until I started therapy, so I'm glad you put on your therapist hat, that when I started talking to these things and getting responses and getting vocabulary for what I'm feeling, and then being more and more comfortable saying I'm hurt, I'm weak, I'm fragile, that I was able to move and mature and meet up to where I am now, like physically being active, physically be whole, physically be healing. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Neff. We have another question. This question is coming from Tabitha. Tabitha is going to be at the Buy Black market on, oh, wait, Tabitha, sorry, never mind. Tabitha is going to be at the panel discussion, though. I don't want to put her biz on Front Street like that. I am an empath, and I have been since I was very young. How do I set limits of how to absorb while still maintaining my empathy for people?
So, Tabitha, from one empath to the other empath, this is where self-care is going to come in for you. And really, you got to really focus on that self-care. A lot of times people will misunderstand the fact that you need to recharge. They will misunderstand, however, because I'm going to say for me to recharge, I have to get people away from me, because I absorb a lot of times what people are feeling, what they're giving off, and it becomes so chaotic. It becomes noisy. And so I have to retreat. It's not because I've been defeated. It's because I just need to recharge. I need to be in control of myself. And so when we stop realizing that we need to be in control of ourselves, we start to try to control everybody else. So if you are not in control of yourself, what good are you going to be to everybody else? And so if you need to build boundaries, that's what you do. You know, not everybody's going to understand boundaries. And again, boundaries are not walls. Boundaries, like, okay, take this for instance. Are you going to let somebody just walk in your house? You don't know them? No, they got to knock on the door first. And then you have to decide if you want to even open your curtain. Because sometimes people come to my house unannounced. You ain't going to even know I'm inside because I'm not going to show you, you know. But it's like we always say our body is our temple. So treat it like that. Treat it like it's a temple. If that is unwanted for you, you have that right to reject it. So make sure you are saying me too. As I mentioned earlier, me too. So I'm tired. I've absorbed all I can today. Whoever don't like it. Because at the end of the day, we always have empathy for everybody else. I hope they understand. I hope they don't get upset. Well, what about us? And that's a part of being assertive. A lot of times we can't even be assertive because we're placing the other person's issue above our own instead of right here in the middle. So that's going to take you having to be assertive, knowing exactly what you need and being able to self-reflect and communicate that. So being an empath, it comes with its perks, but it can come with it sometimes it gets like a burden, but in that moment, in that time, you have to know your lane, your triggers, and what makes you better so you can maintain control of yourself.
Ashe, beautiful. I'm gonna flip another question, and I'm gonna get these in. I have to get the Q&A is blowing up. I'm gonna get these in before
I love it.
Happens next. So the next one is coming to you from Joanna. Joanna's out in the Bay. What up, Joanna? Love the Bay. Nothing like the Bay. Joanna said, "Can you talk more about releasing the chains of reality and staying strong?" And letting yourself dream of the possibilities. I feel like as black women, we aren't allowed to dream, and that stifles my creativity.
Yeah. Oh, Joanna, this is great. All right. So the reality, releasing the chains of reality and dreaming of the possibilities. Okay. So the reality is what's your reality? First of all, we got to understand what our reality is. Reality is what we make of it. My reality may be different from Casey's reality. My reality may be different from Kayla's. It may be different from Tabitha's. It may be different from everybody. However, kind of piggybacking off of what I just said, I'm in control of myself. And so my reality is, yeah, I've been taught I'm strong, and I've seen examples where I'm strong. So I don't even have to worry about that anymore. That's been established. Whatever has been established, whatever, oh, you're this or you're that, and these are all positive things that's been established. So we don't have to worry about that. Taking that strength or taking that good nectar, that essence of what we have been told about ourselves, that's when we can pour it into our dreams and the possibilities. Because in order to make something possible, you have to start from somewhere. And that somewhere is with you. That somewhere is your reality, your self-reflection. When I look in the mirror, and I'm not just talking about physical attributes. I'm talking about what is it that you see? We're always screaming, I'm a queen, I'm a queen. Well, what is a queen? Straight up. What is your definition of queen? Are you that queen? Are there some things missing? And if there are some things missing, go get it. It's yours. Go get it. And so being in that, allowing yourself to dream, allowing yourself to really work on the possibilities, you have to kind of move past what everybody else has assigned you and make it your reality. Your reality is what you assign to it. And so give yourself that freedom, give yourself that space. A lot, like, think of it this way. Lots of things that we are told not to do is really taboo, and taboo is temptation. So we're going to tap on it anyway. But if we allow ourselves and give it, it's just like, okay, so now there's this relaxed state of mind. We're not in that parental mode, and we can move freely. You know how they say when you can now move freely about the cabin because your seatbelt off. You take your seatbelt off and you can move. So there you go.
Ashe. That's good. And there's some more questions in the chat. I'm sorry I couldn't get to them, but definitely DM Nefretiri. That's one thing. You get points for that. Or set up a one-on-one meeting. Go to your My Schedule tab at the top left and schedule a one-on-one meeting with sis and get your questions answered. Okay. Love y'all. Mean it. The DJ session is about to start. DJ T.O. from South Cat is about to get us loose. So twerk on a Wednesday. I'm gonna holler at y'all over there. Thank you so much, Neff. I love you for real.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Bye.